All right, guys. Well, I think it would be really nice for me to tell you that everything is under control in my life. All my projects are moving along perfectly scheduled out, and everything's going in order successfully and whatnot. But that ain't the truth. So it is. I think if you watched the last video from the boat here, I wrapped it up saying, "Hey, I'm getting ready to head back to Salt Lake. I got to squeeze a little bit more stuff in before I go." So give me 1 second. I'm going to tell you what's going on here. All right, so the short part of this explanation on this thing is the heater is not working in the boat properly right now. And it seems to be, I thought I had it sorted out. And then this morning I woke up and it's acting up again. So got to take a look at that. So here's the deal. It's a Webasto flame diesel heater that heats water, or ethylene glycol, antifreeze basically. That circulates the water through the boat. There's some little radiators placed around. Some of them are forced air. They have fans behind them. Some of them are just convection based, like a big long one that heat just rises through. So here's my problem is I've been trying to kind of figure out why this thing isn't very reliable. It will work okay for a couple days, and then all of a sudden, like today, it's not working. The fans are running, the pump's probably pumping, but the furnace part is not turning on and staying lit. And I'm trying to leave the boat for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and I'm a little concerned because it's starting to get a little chilly up here. So I'm going to take another stab at looking at this thing, see if I can figure out what's going on. So let me explain what I know so far, okay? So item one in my diagnostics is I went and got me an infrared thermometer, and I turned everything on, and I went around and I checked all of the radiators, and I would check the heat on the radiator, and it would be 60 degrees. That one's 64 degrees right now. And the heat was just not circulating around the boat, even though the furnace part was turning on. So I thought to myself, okay, the pump isn't working. There's a pump down in the bilge down there, and it is connected to a control relay in the box, the logic box or whatever for the furnace. And so that is supposed to kick on when the thing is running and circulate that hot water. I thought that wasn't working. So what I did is I opened up that control unit box, despite the fact that there's a label on there that says you're not supposed to touch this unless you're a certified technician. But I am a technician. It's not an electrical technician. But anyway, I opened it up. I took a light socket and I wired a light socket to the prongs that go supply power to the pump, so that when the pump is on, I can see the light come on and I can tell that the pump's getting fired up. And actually, while I was doing that, I was able to take the wires for the pump, hit them directly to power, and I could feel the pump running. I could hear it running. I could hear it circulating the fluid around. So the pump works. The fans work for the most part. There's one that doesn't work behind one of the radiators down here, but they work. I have cleaned all the radiators, and it's still just not lighting like it should properly, and it seems to kind of give up on it after a minute, and it shuts off I think what there is, I think there's a blower inside the Webasto unit that I can hear running, and I'll hear the thing try to light. It will give a big kind of a whoomp as it lights, and then it will not stay lit, and it will do that 3 or 4 times, and sometimes it will light. Sometimes it will light on the very first try. Sometimes it takes it 3 or 4 tries, and sometimes it kind of cycles through enough times that I think the logic controller just gives up, shuts everything off, and resets. And that seems to be the condition we're in right now, and it's not heating the boat up. So back down in the bilge I'm going to go, and I'm going to see what I can find. Now I'll just show you what I've got here, just an example of one of the radiators. So there's one right there, and that one is supposed to, you can see the wires there, that has a fan behind it. That's how all these little ones work, is they have a little fan behind them, and it's supposed to be blowing air out here. So obviously it's dirty, and I'll clean it out, but that fan should be working. There's one up here in the forward cabin behind this grill right here, and that one is working pretty well. That's probably the best one. Now, that's also closest to the heat, because the heat is basically being generated right behind the sink here on the other side of the wall back there down in the bilge. So that one's getting it first. So I am going to do a little more fussing around with this thing. See if I can get it to the point where I'm convinced that everything's under control and I'm good to go. Another thing that I'm going to do, this thing is wired into the main fuel pumps, or the fuel tanks. So I believe I've either got 400 or 600 gallons of fuel capacity on the boat here. But there's no fuel gauges anywhere. The boat was built in '86, and apparently you just didn't put fuel gauges on the fuel tanks. What they put is they put a fitting at the top that comes out of the tank with a 90, and it goes down to a fitting at the bottom, and they put a piece of rubber hose that, you know, is a clear plastic tube, and you have a way to, you know, you can look through that and see the level of the fuel. So you have to go down into the bilge, get some light behind that thing so you can see through it and see what fuel level you're at. I have no idea how fast I'm consuming fuel with this thing. So what I'm going to do as well while I'm down there today is I'm going to go down and I'm going to take a little piece of tape and just put a piece of tape around that sight tube at the point where it's at the fuel level now, and then I'll watch it for a period of time and see, am I going down an inch or 2 inches or 10 inches, or do I need to go get fuel, that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to jam a lot of stuff into today, because I also would like to get a couple other things done. I won't bother you with all of them, but I'd like to get a couple other things done before I leave. So I'm just going to dive right in and see if I can get something done here. Well, under today's category of crude yet effective, here's what I've done. So I mentioned that the fan there in the forward cabin is working just fine. So it had a little junction there. I ran a piece of speaker wire out here, disconnected this circuit that was supposed to be supplying 12 volts to the fan, and instead crudely twisted the ends together, and this fan is running now. So these are labeled like AGC, this one says AGC 1.5. There is connected to the little control unit in there on the heater, there's AGC 2 and 3, but I can find no AGC 1 or 1.5. So we know something now. We don't know where that circuit goes, and we do know that this fan works after a fashion. It's kind of puffing a little bit of air out of there. My guess is this is dirty as the other ones have been, so needs to be cleaned out, but there we go. We know the fan's okay. So that's a start on this process of figuring out why it's not turning on, because it is now with some power to it. So I may just say the hell with it and run a piece of wire from this fan to the other fan and just leave it wired to that guy, because that one's obviously working, and that one is also on a switch in there in the master cabin. So there you go. Also, what I found in there, so I've got everything buttoned back on the heater in there, but I did find a couple of the cables that supply power to the thing and so forth were laying against the back of the heating element or the heat chamber, so they kind of melted a little bit, the outside insulation. I have pulled all those aside, tied them up out of the way. I think this is probably where I'm gonna have to leave this thing for now, but yeah, at least we know the fan works. And there is a hour meter on the, I think, on the furnace in there, and it says 174.1. So I suppose that if that is the hour meter for that and not for the generator, then that tells us how many hours we got on that currently. I don't know when it was last reset, but I gotta believe it's been more than 174 hours. So anyway, there we go. It's about all I can do with this thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna undo my Rube Goldberg here thing, my horrific little cable, put that cable away, close back up the forward berth, put this cover back on, put the drawer back in, clean this mess up. Not going to solve this today, but at least now I know the problem. So there you go. Now I know the problem. All right, well, I used up all the distilled water that I had. I only had a gallon. And I have gone through one half of my house bank here. I have filled through that cell right there. This one is still low. My expectation is that second box, which is under this box that's got to just move out of the way here, will take the same. And So I need to go get some more water. But that's all right. The dog needs to pee anyway, so I'll take her with me. We'll run back down to Target. I'm going to get 2 more gallons of distilled water. So hopefully I'll have enough to do the other house bank and potentially the starting battery. I might get, well, I'll get 2 for now. And then up in the front up there, I'm pointing. You can't see me point way in the front of the boat up there. In that compartment at the bottom is the battery for the bow thruster. And I'll have a look at that. If that's a flooded battery as well, my expectation is it may need some distilled water as well. So yeah, that's probably explains my charging issues I've been having, but we'll see. So I'm going to head off to the store and I'll be back in a little bit and we'll finish this job up. Okay, well, evening is closing in, and I've got one of these little to-do jobs that I want to do that I've put off every evening since I got here for mostly one reason, and I'll show you that reason. The dog beats me to the bed. So what I have is I just have some new sheets and so forth. Well, I'll show you the silly thing. So you've seen me working up there on the back of the boat. Well, the back part where that is right above here. And when I poured the epoxy in, when I was pouring the epoxy in, it was slow set epoxy, and it came through and dribbled down here and landed on this pillow and has now epoxied this pillow and this pillowcase together for all eternity. So that's got to go. And I've bought a new pillow, and I've bought a new blanket and all that kind of thing. That's not the big thing. You don't care about that. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to lift this mattress off the bed. I mentioned the memory foam everywhere. Well, this is one of those 400,000 pound memory foam mattresses, but I'm going to stand it up because I don't have the water tank, the freshwater tank is right underneath the bed here, and I have no indicators anywhere that I've found. There is in the shower, there's a shower pump, or in the bathroom, there's a shower pump out that has indicators on it that will show me tank levels, but it doesn't look like anything's wired into it. So I'm going to lift this up, get access to the tank, and I just want to see if it's wired with a tank level sensor so that I can tell when I'm running out of fresh water. Because right now, I can't tell. I just have to fill it up and go for a while and then fill it up again. Ultimately, I do want to put a water maker on here, but for right now, I'm hooked to the hose. I mean, I'm not hooked to the hose, but I'm stuck at the dock here. And when I'm at the dock, I just plug the hose in. So I'm going to kick the dog off the bed, and we're going to stand this mattress up and see what we got under here. I know the first time I got under here, there's a bunch of cardboard and styrofoam and stuff laying on top of the tank, like insulation, I guess, between the mattress and the thing. In the interest of cleanliness, I will probably get rid of all that while I'm at it. And then as I put everything back together, I'll put the new bedding on, which we don't care about. But I do just want to see what we got. So I'll show you what we got once I get that mattress off. here it is. It's 2 tanks. 260 gallons, I believe, is our capacity. So each of those 130. And it looks like they can be shut off individually back here. And, well, there's a sight tube to tell us that tube down right there, and that would tell us how full or empty we are. That's pretty not helpful. So yeah, we're grounded, obviously, but there's nothing there gives us any way of telling how much water is in there. So might have to do something about that one of these days. What I'm thinking might be the thing to do would be to pull one of those covers off and mount a float into that cover so you could have it off of there and drill it without putting all the filings down inside of the tank. So anyway, here's our rudders. Remember when we found that emergency tiller up in there? So this would be if all your steering has failed. Basically, everything I just did is what you mostly have to do to get down in here and get your emergency tiller on here, which then you'd stand here and till the thing. So that would just never work. Autopilot down here, that ram drives the rudder back and forth according to the autopilot, or the steering up top. And there's a position sensor on the rudder down there so we can tell where we're at. I have another additional little light. We're just gonna flip this on for a second and have a good look at everything while we're in here. We got a valve back there for the hydraulics. Looks pretty good. Doesn't look like that's leaking at all. There's a little bit of goofy, weird stuff there. You guys miss out on so much of the fun, I'm telling you, because I shut the camera off and I do stuff. So these boards, I vacuumed all under there. These boards only go in exactly one way. It looks like there's our hole. Now you can't see down in there very well, but down in there, that's our hole that we would go through for our emergency tiller, so we know that. However, these aren't square. They're all cut to fit a specific way. So 3 to 4 times 3 rectangular ones times 2 different directions. They can either be that side here or there and flipped over. So what is that? 3 squared, 9, 10, 18 to the 77th power. I'm not going through that again. So I took my Sharpie, and I wrote port number 1. I put one line there to show us where those two line up. Port number 2, port number 3, 2 lines. Port number 4, 3 lines. So the next time I take this out, I'll be able to figure out how to put it back together. Clever guy, huh? So there we go. Under the category of things that make you go, Once in Wyoming, I was in a restaurant that had been converted from a Denny's into something else or something. And I found a bathroom stall where the door was so close to the toilet that they had notched the door, cut a notch in it so it could swing over the toilet to open and close, which essentially meant you had to be standing up on the toilet or standing with your feet on either side of it in order to close the door. I took a picture of it. Probably don't have it anymore, but on that same vein of weird construction techniques. So these stairs going down to the master bath or master cabin. I have tape measure here, okay? So this step, 10 inches. This step, 10 inches. This step, 9 inches. And let me tell you, if you're not paying attention, you will catch that guy right on the edge, and you will go down. And that's the voice of experience telling you that. I've never seen stairs change the runner length or the step length. I mean, I know why they did it, because of the door here for the washer and dryer closet. It's deadly. It is deadly. So I don't know how to fix that, but that thing has about got me a couple of times, especially if you don't have shoes on and you're in socks and you kind of slippy grippy kind of thing. So I don't know, just thought I'd share that with you. It's just one of those weird things about this boat that made me go, what the heck was someone thinking when they did that? All right, well, let's wrap this up. I'm obviously not still on the boat. I am back in Salt Lake in the house here. So what I did before I left is I did get the furnace worked over as best I could. I brought home that one fan. I'm going to order another fan for that fan, a little radiator arrangement in the galley that was not working. I did service the batteries a little bit. I got the bed kind of situated, and I have put down my first few coats of gel coat on the holes where the old anchor windlass was and on that back step. And for some reason, I didn't really show you much of that. But that's pretty well covered up, sealed up. It'll need some more coats and then sanding, of course. But I think we're sealed up pretty well. So I think I'm in a good spot. I'm back in Utah. I'm going to get back out and work on that sailboat a little bit. I did get my extra primer and my paint and so forth from that I ordered for that thing. And the Jeep's still down there in the garage and it ain't done either. So let's wrap this up and we'll get started on some Utah projects.